Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday, December the 1st of 2020. It's now 8 o'clock, actually 8:08. We're in the Century View Room of Hood County Justice Center, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss software proposals by NetData and Tyler Technology for various Hood County departments. No action will be taken. So this is a special called meeting. This is a situation where we've got the auditor, the treasurer, the district clerk. I think the district attorney says he could go either way. Matt Mills said he could go either way. Katie, what was your deal? You wanted to go with Tyler too, or stay with NetData?
Stay with NetData. I mean, why spend the money? So yeah.
But either way, and the only ones that were really trying to really put forth their program is to let them stay with NetData were the JPs and constables. And now I hear that two of the JPs and two of the constables would, or maybe,
Yeah, I think
would
it's
like
right.
to go with, would like to make the change, and two of them would like to stay. So my big deal, and I spoke to both the representatives at one time saying, the sheriff kind of has a deal between NetData and Spillman. And they're working fine, and the sheriff is happy as a clam, and he's the most important as far as having to communicate with everybody and do all the reports and everything. And he's happy with that. And my whole question was, why couldn't y'all two technology companies get together and make it work so that the county that, I know it's not the most efficient, I know that, and I know that in my practice I had to make a decision about choosing one, and we did because it was just more efficient. But we didn't have elected officials in my office either. They were employees, and so they worked with whatever we decided to go with. And to see if they could work together so that, back then when we were talking, and I mentioned that, like I said, the JPs and the constables, I thought, all wanted to keep NetData, and the rest of the county kind of wanted to go to Tyler. So I said, why couldn't you all do that so that y'all could talk when it came to far as making reports and all? And I'm assuming, but now it looks like the JPs and the constables are kind of split on this. I know I got phone calls from Judge Castillo is at the jail this morning. Cotton Howell is recovering from COVID, so they're not here, but both of them want to stay with NetData. But then I have our newly elected JP that's going to be my neighbor across the hall from me. Dub is up here, and Kathy's here now, and both of y'all are leaning towards Tyler, or does it make any difference?
I think we both want to see both programs. I want to see them compared.
Okay, is that you, Dub? Is that?
Well, the ladies that run my office want to stay with NetData. So I'm just trying to get up to speed, but they're happy with NetData, and the efficiency is 99%. So
Yeah, and everybody has always told me when we would go to our commissioners, county judges meetings and stuff, that all of the judges, that NetData is the one that really kind of serves most of the JPs and constables in the state of Texas. That's really their strong foothold, if you would say, is NetData. And that Tyler was making inroads or has a more modern, expansive deal towards the other departments. That's what I've heard. I don't know. But I just like to open it up to anybody's questions, and because I'm not really a computer giant, I can tell you that, but and I know it's more efficient to go with one system or the other. And I do know that there were a couple of employees here that have worked in offices and have used both. Like Melissa in Chad Jordan's office, I think she worked for you, Kathy, or for Tona, one or the other. So she could do either Tyler or NetData. Oh, that's you.
Kristen.
I remember you, troublemaker. No, she's really good. That's right. You've worked with both and proficient in both, and you're just saying that really, once after you get to know it, Tyler works better. That's your opinion?
Yes,
So,
sir.
okay. Well, having made that little preamble, I'm open for questions, and I see you back. I know we're side of the fence. You're as far away from everybody else as you can do. Okay. All right. Well, who would like to speak first? Do the two experts here want to try to throw your plan as to what you can do? Or
Judge, Commissioners, so basically, my understanding, I got with both vendors to kind of lead this. We'll be here till noon. I spoke with NetData, and they're going to present it or give a presentation from 8 to 10. Or, if it's faster, it's faster. If not, take the time. And then, of course, Tyler's supposed to give some kind of presentation, answer questions, everything like that from 10 to noon. Of course, they could go faster, slower. It's really at the discretion of the court, but just kind of some kind of guidelines, because there really wasn't a whole lot given to me to come up with this meeting other than put both vendors in the same room and compare products. So from that, I'll turn it over to NetData.
okay.
I'm going to come up to the podium. Excellent. Good morning. Okay, so we want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to be here today. Can I move this? That's better. Okay, awesome. Familiar, friendly faces all over the room. You guys have seen me at least half a dozen times since Commissioner's Court in September, as well as some of my team members that I have here today. It's been my pleasure to visit with all of our offices over the last couple of months to get down and visit with our customers and see what their current needs are, and get down to the nitty-gritty, if you will, and take care of those needs for our customers. You guys have been a customer since 1990, a very long time, dear to my heart. Family-owned company for a long time, and we joined I3 Verticals, as you know, in April of 19, and I can speak for our CEO, my brother, and VP of Collections, my sister, and I, that we love our new parent company, and we are moving forward and doing great things and have lots of really great things in store, not only for Hood County, but for all of our customers in Texas, as well as Oklahoma and Ohio as well, and looking forward to expanding that customer base as well. So we're not going anywhere. We have a big, bright future ahead of us. We are here to strengthen our relationship with Hood County and get things running as smoothly and as great as we can. The last few months, our offices here have been talking to our development staff, our IT, they've been talking to me, they've been talking to product experts to figure out things that we need to get done to make their life easier, because that's what our whole job is to make your county staff's job easier. Today, we're going to give some updates on different concerns that were brought to our attention back in September. A lot of these concerns have already been taken care of, which is amazing. We have got down to it and got down to the wire and crossed off, if you will, a lot of things that were some of our office's concerns that you guys were hearing about back in that Commissioner's Court meeting in September. So we've got a few things going up. First, we're going to show some JP, the e-filing for JP courts, and give you guys kind of a small demonstration on how that's going to work. Judge Gwynn and Kristen and our other JP offices, give you an update on the progress with us and Spillman, Motorola, and the Sheriff's Office and our partnership agreement with them. our e-discovery for the attorney's offices. We'll give you an update on how we've been progressing with that. Any security issues or anything, concerns that you guys have, we've got Dustin Ballard here to answer any questions that you may have on security, server versus hosting. And Dallas Osborne is here to explain the future of NetData and I3 verticals in Hood County. Like I said, lots of good things are happening. Upgrade paths for different software that we have. Upper court case management, that's coming very soon. And different things that we have in the works that we can share with you today that maybe we couldn't unveil previously. And we have product experts, Amber Cody here, and Brandy Wilkinson and Tisha Harris. They're going to speak briefly and give you guys an update and show some things. We can, Judge Gwynn mentioned and newly elected Judge Gillum, maybe to see the JP package, a little bit of that icon. We can show our new WebDray product if you'd like to see that. So different things that we've got going on. So by that, again, thank you very much for your time today. We are so excited to be here. And I will turn it over to Brandy Wilkinson, and we're going to show the e-file super quick.
I got a question for you.
Absolutely.
This is for both of you. I'd like both of you to answer. Of course, security is my main concern right now because
Sure.
getting hacked. My question is, software server is cheaper, but the cloud is more secure. Is that correct?
Dustin.
I'd like for both comment, both Tyler and that.
Sure, no problem. I'm going to bring our expert guy up here for any security or hosting questions, if you guys don't mind. All right, Dustin.
So in our hosting environment, we worked with a company for all of our CGIS compliance and CGIS standards. So we keep that pretty secure. We have a little over 118 cities and counties through the state and other states on our hosting environment. That's something that we monitor daily and monitor weekly with weekly audits. So it's a little, it's secure. Secure is a little hard to say, but it is definitely being watched and monitored probably more closely than a server that's standing on site. Yeah, that's correct.
And I would agree that the hosting is a more secure environment. All of our SaaS clients, and we're actually the district clerk's data is currently hosted in our SaaS.
Can I just ask everybody, when you're talking, come up to the podium?
Or
so
use,
that people-
or unless their mics are working. If your mic's working, you can talk from there if it's working.
That's fine, either way. So our secure environments, we do have GovCloud and Azure services. They are all CGIS compliant. All of our staff also has to go through background checks to remain CGIS compliant. And any of our clients that are hosted are in those environments. We also have the data backed up to multiple locations so that if you ever have a failure at one, it rolls over automatically to the other servers. And then we do daily, weekly, monthly backups on all of the data that is stored. And we store a certain amount of each of those backups for each of our clients so that in the event of an emergency, you can always go back to any of those backups.
So, answer the question, y'all recommend the cloud or the servers? NetData?
Probably hosted.
Cloud.
Okay.
And it's the same process. I mean,
But the cloud is more expensive,
We're all doing the same.
right? The cloud versus servers is more expensive, right? Yeah. Okay.
Are you good?
Yep.
I didn't want to.
No, appreciate it, yeah.
Do you want to run this? Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thanks for turning it on.
Hi, yes, my name is Brandy Wilkinson, and I've been with NetData for over 8 years, and I'm the implementation specialist for the e-file software, for our integrated software, not only for the case management system, but for the ICON system also. Our ICON system is up and running, our integration software. We have it in the Tom Green JP office, and it is so user-friendly. It is an amazing software. Our developers have done an amazing job with it. It's easy to use, the configuration of it, the training and everything is very smooth. The switchover from the manual e-filing over into the integration e-filing is it's like so smooth. It takes not very much time to get it switched over. As far as you go through a process from being manual to the integration software, which our offices work with the eFile Texas implementation team to get all of that switched over and work directly with the JP offices to make sure that everything is set up and configured before the go-live date, which the go-live date will be whenever you switch over from manual to the integration software. Now, the JP e-filing is fairly new. Well, I won't say fairly new. Everybody's just now coming on and getting set up for the manual e-filing for JP. The case management with the district and county clerks, you all know that was mandated, whereas JP is not mandated as of right now for the state to be on e-filing. So that's why there's not tons of counties going live with the e-filing yet. So I'm just going to go through some PowerPoint slides for our e-filing. I do not have a live process to show you because of the way that it has to be set up with eFile Texas. We are allowed to put counties in for stage testing with eFile Texas, but we do not have a stage environment that is set up for demoing through our system. So that's why it is not a live demonstration. Okay. This
You have a
first.
question?
Yes, how many counties do you have on right now on e-file?
Currently, we have Tom Green live with eFile and several that are coming on board with it.
How many counties?
Counties and district, I have 30 plus. Alrighty, and with the CMS vendors, which is our county and district clerks, we're at 100% with everybody up and running with the e-filing and the integration that signed up for it. Okay, so this first slide is a slide of the eFile Texas, where the filer goes on to the eFile Texas site and files their filings, which is built into an envelope. That's what the eFile Texas calls it. So whenever the envelope is submitted from the filer, from the attorney or whomever is filing it, it shows up into a review queue, which is brought up to the clerks in the JP offices that will be working these. And at that point, the clerks will review the envelopes, and they will make sure, that the money that is associated with it, that the filing that the filer has brought in, everything looks good, and then they will accept the filing on the eFile Texas side. And at the point where they accept the filing on the eFile Texas side, it will send off messages through a web service, through web service files, over to the ICON system, and we'll be relaying information back and forth. For example, whenever it's an initial filing, a first filing, the acceptance of the envelope will send off a message to the ICON system asking for a case number. We, in return, build a file with the case number and the party information in it and send it back to the eFile Texas, whereas whenever it comes over, that top slide is where it's an envelope, where it's still in the beginning stages of acceptance. Then whenever we send our information back, we send it back and they populate the case number on top of the documents. They will file stamp and populate that, and they populate their screen with the case number and the style of the case. Then whenever they get on initial filings, whenever they get the case number and the information back, they build what's called a record filing. From eFile Texas, it will be sent through web services, and it has all of the information in it. It will have your documents, your party information, your money information, everything attached to come over. And whenever you get it over into the ICON system, or it'll go to an accepted status on the eFile Texas side. And that's how the clerk knows that it is finalized and ready to be finalized in the ICON system. So once it gets to the ICON system, it will go into the eFile import queue. And down there at the bottom, you will see that the case has come over and it is ready to be finalized into your ICON system. And at this point, you simply click on it and select the import option over at the bottom right, and it will import the documents, post your payments, and finalize everything. Like literally everything you've been doing manually is taken care of through the integration software. Okay. Whenever it is brought over, the software does several things for you. For the ICON system, of course, if it's an initial filing, it's going to assign the case number. It's going to populate the party information, including the addresses and attorneys if the filer has put it in the envelope on the eFile Texas side. It will populate your events tab. Therefore, whenever it comes in and you import it, it's going to give you your events that it's an e-filing and that it's been accepted and what has come over. For example, on this one, it was in a petition that was sent over and not an application. So it's a quick view of being able to go here and know exactly what has come in to the ICON system from eFile Texas. Also, on the image tab, we bring in the image and the image description, which right now, if you are on the e-filing manually, you're having to either print out and scan or drag and drop it into there. That is all done for you. There's literally, by a few clicks of a button, you have worked your whole envelope into the ICON system. Another thing that the e-filing does is it writes out your collections. Whenever you go live with the e-file integration, prior to that, you work with an implementation specialist, either myself or another one from NetData, and we configure everything to process where all the money is posted to where it needs to be posted and broken down into your filing fees and collections. And when you import that, it comes over into ICON, and we write all that out for you. Whenever you import your filing, when we write out the total record screen and your receipt, we put the envelope number in the check number field so that you can easily cross-reference and check back and balance to your eFile Texas financial reports, so that you know what envelopes have been paid and hit your bank account as far as Chase Bank from eFile Texas. Okay. As far as your subsequent filings, of course, are just going to work the same way, except there's not as much that goes into it as far as the case number is already established and that information is already in your system. On a subsequent filing, however, if you have motions that come over, we automatically write those to your motions tab, and we document the information for you. We document the subsequent filing when it comes in to the events tab so that you know that you received a subsequent filing and when it was received, but also that motion is put into your motions tab and documented for the timestamp whenever it was, the file mark and everything on the document will match your motions tab. So that instead of having to pull up your motion and actually physically look at the document, you can come here and see the information needed. In our e-file queue, which is put into the system at the bottom, just like your case tabs and so forth on your JP's icon system, we have the e-file queue, and we have where you have your pending e-filings, which will be the ones that you have accepted on e-file Texas that are setting in your pending queue to be worked. And after you have selected them and imported them, they go to an imported queue. So therefore, you can always go back and check, has that been imported or not? If you can't remember, if you need to go back and do some work on it and don't remember the case number and don't want to go back to e-file Texas to look up the case number, you can simply come and to the imported queue and quickly look up that information. The rejected, we do have a rejected queue. We found this necessary. I don't know that Hood may have as much problems with this, but I have, as far as Ochiltree and Orange County, you know, in case management, you have filers that go in there and select the wrong county, and sometimes the clerk may mistake and just click and think, okay, this is a filing for our county, and not realize that it's another county's filing. Well, at this point, if we can reject it from the pending queue and it won't go into your system, therefore it stops it from being even a worse process as far as posting the money and everything, because as you know, well, with e-file Texas, if you accept something and it's accepted by mistake, within a certain time period, you can contact them and they can refund the money on the e-file Texas side. And therefore, you don't have to go through the whole process of the refunding the money through the county if you catch it before it's been receipted. Therefore, you know, the paper trail is still there as far as the e-file Texas side, but you have stopped it on your side without having to go through all of the hoops of refunding money through the treasurer's office back to the filer, and it's just a difficult process. And so, let's see if I'm... As far as our e-file queue, it does many things. You can sort it many different ways. If you have a large office and have more than 3 or 4 people accepting filings from e-file Texas, you can minimize the e-file queue just down to the filings that you are accepting, so that if there's 3 people in the office, you can minimize them down to just being your filings and you don't see anyone else's. The product is so user-friendly, I can't explain that enough. It's a process that literally by a few clicks of a button, you have taken 20 or 30 minutes away.
Does that accept the constable fees also? How does it work as far as your constable fees?
Yes, in e-file Texas, whenever you go in and you file an envelope or a filer files them, they have a process that is optional services. So we configure that to the constable fees, so that whenever they go in there and they select a service, it would say like constable service, they'd select it and it'd have the money attached to it. So then when you accept the envelope, it would write it out to that correct fee code.
Judge Gwen, I got a question for you, and it's e-filing. And I know we had that problem with Spillman, Sheriff, and I think that problem has got corrected as far as the punches. Is the punches are entering in there? I don't know what the correct terminology is, but I know you had to enter 3 times the Spillman to get it work. Isn't that correct, Sheriff?
Well, we had to enter into Spillman in that data. Is where we've been for the last few years.
I think they've corrected that problem to date.
They're working on it, so it's...
Okay, and I want to know the same question for the JPs and constables. I know we're on NetData now, is the entering or punches, or whatever you want to call it? Are y'all having to do a bunch of that to get into the system?
Well, I mean, we have to enter all our cases. We're not on e-file. And when we've been in contact with e-filing, but they want to do all 4 JPs at one time. I mean, that's just an easier way to do that.
Right,
And the other JPs do not want to be on e-file.
okay.
So, and that's why Dallas is, you know, I got an email from him that said he was, you know, they were ready to start doing it with us, but we have to be on the e-file first.
Right.
And until I can get all the other 3 JPs on board with us as far as e-filing, even if you don't use it at the time, it can be done and set up, ready to go when you do decide to. But, you know, they don't care anything about the e-file right now, whereas my office would love to do e-file.
Probably one of these days, the state's going to mandate it, right?
It is,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
yes,
coming.
And I'd rather be ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So it's either all or none is what you're saying?
Yes. Well, I mean, they can do it for one office, but for them to come in and do it would be much simpler to do all the JP offices at one time.
When is the mandated date? When do we have to all be on e-filing?
Well, they've not set a mandated date, but they're saying within the next couple of years.
Well, district court, never, district
It's
court.
supposedly
never
not on the
e-filed out.
horizon the next 2 years at least, for justice courts anyway. That's what I'm hearing, but that could change based on the legislature.
We got a new legislative meeting now, so there's no telling what's being filed, but Corona could maybe speed it up, or maybe just put it back. We're not going to know until the legislators start meeting, start getting their, what they want to do. Whether we're going to be mandated or not, this next legislation or not.
And can I just ask another question is that for NetD to do e-file for us, there's another charge. Is that correct?
Correct. It's an add-on application, not a huge number, but we have a lot of courts that could benefit from the integration piece. Some of them just need to get set up and do it manually because maybe they don't have the case activity or warrant an interface. Depends on the court, depends on the judge. But it's a very fair price for what you're getting, I think. So, and our courts, our justice courts are jumping on board.
Well, Tony, the district court cases, they've been e-filing what, for 2 years now?
As soon as e-file came online, we were doing it.
Since when?
As soon as the e-file Texas came online, we were doing it.
As soon as they came on, they were, right, when e-filing came out, you're saying you guys went on that. How long ago has that been? Year, 2 years?
I don't know, it's been several years now.
Been several years?
I said
Okay.
2 years,
More than that. Yeah.
3?
I think it's been done since I've been in office.
Probably about 4.
Yeah.
I was trying to say 4, 4.5.
Yeah, mandatory, that's the only way you can file stuff.
Correct.
In district court, you've got to e-file.
Yes, you
You can't go up there and just
No.
go up there and file it. You have to-
Your county clerk's offices as well, so both your offices are accepting electronic filings currently.
do. District clerk is not. We're a total e-file.
Okay, do you want to, Tyler come back, or are you?
No,
Is that it?
well, we'll continue if that's okay with the judge.
Do what?
We'll continue if that's okay with you, Judge. Do you have any
Well,
more
I just
questions
have-
on e-file?
I just have another question.
Absolutely.
So every case that comes in, you're going to import it in, but is it a motion, you're going to import that in also?
Yes, everything that comes in the envelope will be imported in. We just, with the icon system, you have the motions tab. So it wouldn't just document it on the events tab. We go ahead and populate your motions tab also.
Okay, so to look at that motion, you have to hit the motion tab.
It would be working exactly like you are now. You would have your motion documented on the motions tab with your information, and then your images are stored on your image tab. And I will say that the process as far as the configuration to get you set up and switched over, it's it's not, you know, something that takes vigorous time or information. Like, whenever we do the implementation, we take as much of the pressure off of your office as necessary or possible. We do in-house testing. After we get the configuration set up, we do the in-house testing and everything so that we know that everything is working as it should, and go over that with you before you go live. It's very, you know, minimal as far as your time being spent on it.
Why would we not want to do this right now? Go to e-filing in the JP's office? Why wouldn't we want to do it? Can
I don't know, ask.
anybody, Danny, anybody? I'm hearing one. I mean, it sounds like they've already got the program written, right? The programs are written.
Yes.
They're being used at other counties. It would be a matter of Hood County pulling the trigger and saying, yeah, come on over and train us to e-file. Whether they use it or not, they don't have to, but you would implement it through all the JPs. Danny, what?
We've spoke with NetData about this, and they said as soon as they get everything set up for us, we'd be able to do it. I don't have the authority to go and take on a new program without going before the commissioners. When the program's ready for us, I'm ready.
Okay.
We're ready to do.
So we don't have a controversy whether or not we're going to do it or not. We're just.
We know it's coming,
Okay.
and we're trying to get ahead of the game before it becomes mandatory. And
Right.
that's what we're just waiting on this to get the commissioner's court to approve us to be able to go on it. As far as I'm concerned, I would prefer this route, to be honest.
So when's y'all's timeline when y'all are ready? I mean, y'all got any kind of,
I mean, we're ready as far as,
right now, you mean, if they told you today, you're ready?
yes, but there's a process of getting there. The eFile Texas side has to be set up prior to us going with our product, because there are file marks, there is a configuration that has to be done through the eFile Texas portion. And as soon as that's done, then I can work with eFile Texas to get the configuration set up for the integration software, which is a process that we work with them with. The web services has to be configured and set up for the communications back and forth. And then I work with the offices to get them going.
Is eFile Texas a standalone system?
Yes, they're a state system.
So we could get it without using NetData, right?
Correct. You can get it and work the information manually. The integration software just takes that manual labor off of the offices.
So you have a software upgrade for eFile Texas?
Yes, sir.
Correct. So there's really two phases to eFile. Your courts can go online right now. Judge Glenn can go register with eFile Texas right now and pull down electronic filings from that portal right now. What this application does is upload that information into NetData without the clerk having to manually input all that stuff. So really, you could be e-filing right now, per se. The integration piece is what Randy's showing you guys. That's just streamlines the process, makes the cases automatically uploaded, attaches the documents to it, saves you a bunch of steps. But you could be justice court e-filing right now, if you wanted. Nothing to do with NetData.
Sam, can you come on up and ask your question? I know you've been trying to get everybody's attention here.
Okay, so my question is, this is only for those who have ICON though, to be able to integrate. Because our system is not on ICON. I'm with the district attorney's office. We are not on ICON. We're still on the prior to, the NetD.
Right.
So the integrated e-filing only works if you've got ICON. It does not work for.
Yes, because you're filing into your JP offices and into your district and county clerk's offices, whereas there is not an eFile Texas portal to file into a district or county attorney's office. Now, you guys can use it.
We file through eFile.
Well, yes, you file through eFile to go into, you're filing information for the clerk and the clerk's offices.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody files information to you.
Correct. But our clerk is on Tyler.
Uh-huh.
So, and I know the county clerk is on NetData.
Yes.
But they're not on the Icon NetData.
Icon is our JP software.
Okay.
So the NetD Online is our clerk software.
Okay, so there's not an integration for that software, is that what I'm
Yes.
getting? Okay.
Yes, yes. The case management, the district and county clerk's offices, we have already, that software, e-file integration software has been out there. We started end of 2017, so that integration software is already there.
Okay, because we currently do everything manually. Through our office, we're having to do everything manually. I realize I'm with the attorney's office, and it's
Right.
filing to the clerk.
Right.
But we have to do everything manually through eFile Texas, where if we had a software to be able to e-file with your integration software, that's what I'm asking, is is it possible for us to have the integration software at the attorney's office, or are we going to always have to do it manually?
Well, for it to be recorded in the e-file Texas, you go through the e-file Texas and everything's recorded, of course, over into the research Texas.
Okay.
So that, as far as as of right now, no, there's not a software.
Where do the papers come from? Like, who gives you the papers?
Like motions that we file, things like that?
Y'all make them up?
Yes.
I think what she's trying to say is there's no way to integrate that in, because there's not, because you guys make those motions, just like if you're a regular attorney's office that worked on the square or whatever, you know. So what I'm trying to say, I think is what she's saying is that because you make those papers, that there's no way to put that without scanning it or whatever, you know, into e-file, because there's, right, I mean, that.
Right, the envelopes and everything have to be established on the e-file Texas portal.
Okay.
As far as making it over into the clerk's offices.
Okay. That was my question, is that there was an integration that we could use.
And not at this time, but
Okay.
who knows what the future holds.
Judge, Commissioner Court, and Judge, I just want to tell you, we're not dodging the bullet on this thing. We're waiting till everything works out. We've been registered with e-filing for over a year. So we're not bucking the system. We're waiting till everything gets lined up, and we're ready to go when NetData is ready to go. So it's not a deal of us dodging the bullet at all. We're ready to go. My office right now would prefer to stay with NetData because they've been very effective for our office. Very, very effective. User friendly. And I'm not trying to speak for any other office.
Okay. Hey, county clerk's requesting, anybody who wants to talk, please come up to the podium and speak, so that way it can be recorded. Nothing against you, Judge. She just, yeah, that way it can all be recorded, and she can have it on the minutes.
Okay. Are there any more questions about the e-file integration software? All righty. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brandy. I appreciate it. Now, Judge Gwynn and Castillo and Tuggle, if you guys, Judge-elect Gillum, if you guys think of any other questions that you have about our e-filing process and integration, of course.
You don't have to speak.
Oh, my bad. I was looking at them, and you are so right. I'm so sorry. You are right. I'm so sorry about that. We'll be around. So my point is, if you think of another question, it doesn't have to be asked right this very minute. Just let us know, and we can show you some other things or answer any questions that you might have. Well, thank you, Brandy. Let me get out of this just a second. Okay. So we will, that's better. Okay, so next on our update agenda, I've actually already spoken to the sheriff this morning. We've been in, Dustin Ballard, if you want to go ahead and go up to the podium, or you can come and sit if you'd rather sit. Up on the partnership agreement and integration with Motorola Spillman and i3 and NetData, constant contact with the sheriff's office, with Debbie Armstrong, speaking with our one of our main developers, Paula King, on getting the information that we need to take care of some dual entry that the sheriff's office that those users have been having to do. Dustin, I think, has maybe an update from yesterday later afternoon that Paula King and Debbie were speaking with together.
Yes, so quick update on that. We have partnered with Motorola now, so we've got the partnership agreements in place. All the legal stuff has been completed. We've got the integration documents. We're compiling a list of all the field data that the sheriff's office uses and what they're wanting to come into the system. That's all being compiled right now, so we should know pretty quickly what that integration effort's going to look like going forward. So that's something we're pretty excited about because that presents a great opportunity for the sheriff's office.
Absolutely.
You know how long it's going to take y'all to get that settled?
Once we have all the data identified and the data elements, then we'll be able to kind of map out how long that effort's going to take. Right now, we think we'll have all of the data elements lined out probably the end of this week, probably.
When?
End of this week is when we would have everything identified, and then we could work on the scope of what the project's going to look like to get the integration put in place.
So not long.
It seems pretty straightforward from what we've got. It looks like it's just an XML calls, so I think that'd be a pretty quick effort.
That's where I'm going back to the entering 3 times. We're going to kind of try to get that cut out.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Debbie has been so great and vital. Sheriff, she's been amazing, as you know, how great she is, and working with us and our team to get this taken care of for you guys. And Debbie seems pleased with the progress that we've been making, and the sheriff's office as well. And I think that's it. Do you want to run into
the server versus hosted? I know there's been long discussions that we've had for a while. So we've presented our hosting options and a server option. Kind of everybody's moving towards that hosted environment. We have professionals on site kind of trained to watch all the data going through, any kind of security incidents or related issues. We have great SLAs. We have a private infrastructure, so what that means is we actually have a device at Hood County that we currently use to access the system as needed to do updates and things like that. Basically, what we would do in a hosted environment is we would flip that, and then you would connect up to our hosted environment. That's a FIPS 140-2 compliant VPN. It's a state registered device through NetProtect. So we use their network redundancy. If we have any kind of system issues, we have a hot site as well, so it can be replicated. Data is replicated on the fly. So if we have issues, we had to roll over. Hood County wouldn't know any difference. We do backups, nightly backups, weekly backups, quarterly backups, and semi-annual backups. Keeping all of your image data safe and your court data. This also allows better utilization of IT resources, so they're not having to keep up with the systems on site and manage those. They don't have any backup tapes to manage. There's no heating and cooling requirements. You don't have to worry about it having a data center space or rack or anything like that. So that's something that's really taken off on us. So that's going very well, and I think that's a great opportunity for you guys to look into. And I didn't know if you guys had any questions about that, or...
Drew, have you looked at this two-page document?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Simplify it down for us.
So the hosted option that you are looking at right now is the same hosted option I brought to that we signed last year, a year and a half ago, and I brought to the court to move to. What is it now, 3 months ago? And that's what started this whole Tyler versus NetData, simply because we were moving to the hosted option for NetData.
We had a contract signed with them, right?
Yes, it is a 5-year contract.
So where we at on that right now? No contract has been signed?
No, we signed the first contract. I brought it to the court to move forward with it.
Right.
And that's what started this whole Tyler versus NetData thing again, like it always does.
Okay.
So we were on board to go with the hosted solution for NetData. And it's already budgeted in my budgets, excuse me. I just am looking for
You're just saying that this locks us in for 5 years with NetData.
Correct.
Hosting.
Correct. So
That's the reason you were
again,
asking.
that's what kind of started this whole, like, let's put on the brakes, let's look at both vendors again. And so that's what we're doing. But this was originally what I presented.
So the server option would be, the server option is what, is that the cost that we're seeing, that if you were doing the server and
Yes.
the data, this would?
Yes, I would be purchasing a
That'd be
server
our-
and putting it in our
okay.
data center.
Got it.
Yes, and then
Got
the
it.
support agreements to go with
Got
it.
it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You agree that the cloud hosting is the same?
Yes, that is why I presented it to the court.
That's why. Did we sign that in 2019 or 2020?
It's been a year and a half now. It was like it was 2019.
19, February of
I was going to say
19.
it was back in February. And so just bringing it 3 months ago, I believe, I'm getting my dates all wrong, I apologize.
September.
That's correct.
September, sometime in there, that's when, again, we were, wait a second, let's look at both options, let's reevaluate everything. But that's the way we were going to go, was hosted with NetData. And at least until departments figured out what they wanted to do, that would, like the judge said, that would effectively keep the peace. We'll still be, it's not the most effective solution or efficient solution, but it lets the departments that want to stay, and if there is departments that want to go, they can move over to Tyler if they wanted to.
Which options are you recommending, or
So
do you prefer?
So it depends on the recommendation. So if we're going off of a recommendation as far as a software that does everything and beyond, I would recommend Tyler. But if we're going purely from a cost recommendation, stay the same and move to NetData hosting for 5 years.
Well, I see 2 options on here. Which one?
It would be option 2.
2?
Yes, sir.
Right.
That is correct. And that was originally because, again, everyone doesn't want to move over to Tyler. So I figured we were staying with the status quo that we've been doing for all these years. And that is why I presented the hosting for NetData.
Well, is there integration software so that the ones in Hood County that would like to stay on that are like County Clerk, some of the JP offices, and some of the constables stay on that data? Is there an integration software that's going to be able to make reporting easier for Becky and the treasurer, stuff of that nature? I mean, you understand?
I do.
I understand what I say about integration software.
We would have to.
Computer geek talk about
Yeah.
integration software.
And we'd have to get with the vendors to get that information, or to help out at least if it is not currently implemented.
Yeah, currently, we don't have a financial integration, like with the financials. We do have exporting reporting options, so we can export in reports. I'm sure their system has an importing option, so reports could be exported out of one system and imported into the other. That would be kind of the integration effort right now, but there's not a automated integration effort currently.
Well, see, that automatic integrated effort, that's what we were talking about. I think, Becky, Kidd, weren't you saying that you had to manually insert a bunch of things to get do certain reports is why that you were going for everybody being on Tyler?
It would be nice to be on one system, number one. And nothing against NetData, but it's cumbersome to go into between two different types of reporting modules. It'd be nice to be able to go into one, run all of our reports, compare with the information we receive from that department, and move forward that way. One of my assistants came in here and explained how much trouble it was on just one particular report going back and forth, if you remember that conversation.
I do. But now, is there anything any simpler so that if we had with the county clerk and let's say, let's say that 2 JPs and 2 constables wanted to go ahead and go over to Tyler. So I guess what you would have in the county is that you'd have the county clerk and 2 constables and 2 JPs that would still be on NetData.
If that's what you choose to do, we'll continue to work with that.
And it's just the work is it, though, to do that. I know it would be a cheaper solution for the county, wouldn't it?
Cheaper isn't always better.
I know cheaper is not always better.
It is just, it's cumbersome.
Always remembered long after the cheap price.
That's correct. But it's just cumbersome to go between the two systems, and when there's errors, that's really an issue. And again, we've had some issues with deleted receipts, which no one should ever be able to delete a receipt. A receipt should always be reversed. We've had problems with individuals from departments calling NetData and having them delete a receipt, even though we've asked repeatedly that they not do this. That's a huge issue.
We talked about the last time, and I thought that NetData had solved that.
Yes,
there would
it
be
did.
Absolutely no more
Correct.
deletion of receipts.
Correct. Now, I don't disagree with Becky on that particular issue. It wasn't multiple times. It was definitely something that we could have reversed probably and not deleted it. Now, there's documentation. I've actually spoken to that office as well, where the original office manager requested it to be deleted. Now, whether or not that was the right thing to do, regardless, but we did not just go in there and take care of something without written authorization. Now, the answer to your question is yes. It is our policy not to do that, and that happened wasn't recent, and so so it does not happen again. We have a very strict policy on that. So I do agree with that one statement that Becky had, but it's not recent. It hasn't been happening multiple times. It's a little misguided.
Yeah, that was one of my questions on the ask list, as far as, I know we had that issue with one department. Our office manager did do the deleting, and that was one of my questions. We kind of got a hold on that now with NetData.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Nothing will be deleted.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
It was an ongoing issue for many years. And I'd spoken with people at NetData and asked them not to do it, not to let a department call and delete a receipt. And it just kept happening probably a couple of times a year, and then it got slower, and then we discovered this last one. But that's all we could do. And the only difference is no one at Tyler is going to delete a receipt. They're not going to take direction from a department, because that's just a problem.
Is there a county policy regarding that?
I'm sure there is a really old one, but during auditing for years and years and years, we stress and repeatedly tell them, do not delete a receipt. You can reverse it. That way we can follow the trail of what's happened with the money.
Just credit it or something.
That's correct. Do not delete receipts. And then when it happens, that delete receipt number, it just goes into nowhere land.
Well, I know one thing, NetData would be awful foolish to ever delete a receipt from any department in Wood County at this point forward, from the last point on that deal. So maybe that's taken care of. I was hoping that it would be.
And if they say it has been, I have faith that that's the truth.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I use NetData all the time, and
Can you speak up a little bit, Kate?
I use NetData all the time, and it's impossible for our clerks to delete a receipt. Now, you can resend it, but you can't delete it. It's still in there. Or if you call NetData, they can pull it up and look at it, and, you know, maybe if you want, it was an error or a mistake, they can make adjustments, but it's impossible to delete a receipt. You can revise it, but you can't delete it.
Okay, they were deleting it. NetData was deleting these receipts.
Not recently, though, right?
A year ago, yeah.
Okay, well, okay, I just wanted to let you know that I'm familiar with using it, and it's impossible for me to delete a receipt.
And the only other thing I would say to that is, I would hate to have to call either vendor and have a receipt changed, corrected, or altered. That's absolutely inappropriate.
I agree with that.
So,
It is what it is.
and I've always told the departments, if you have that big of a problem, you call me and I will come sit down with you, and if we have to call the vendor, at least I'll be there and know what's going on. And that has been something that has happened in the past, and they called me, I sat down with them, we called NetData, and it was worked out. But I was aware of it, and knew what the problem was. But just to do it without the auditor's knowledge of what's going on is not really something that you should be doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
I'm going to go back to
What else?
the customer reporting.
Judge, I got a question on the financials, just to probably, maybe it's obvious. We've got the quote here for term hosting. Is that dependent on how many departments or softwares you're hosting? My question goes, if we stay with NetData with the JPs and the county, and everybody else goes to Tyler, would that change the cost of hosting, the amount of hosting done by NetData?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
We process based off of the amount of storage you have, any kind of images or archive documents, and users is kind of how we run our pricing.
So that would affect the pricing. You come back if we only did the JPs, whoever wanted to stay with NetData and the county clerk. If that's the only ones that stayed and the rest of them went to Tyler, it would change the hosting cost.
Yes, that's
It
correct.
would be lower,
No, it'd probably be less with the amount of users that are coming.
cost would be less.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're not talking maybe 5, 6, 7 departments then, be on NetData.
County clerk, 2 constables' office, and
County
2
court at law.
JP's office. So,
County court at law. In the county court at law.
I'm sorry.
County court at law.
No, but Judge Messina's?
Staying on. NetData, yes, sir.
He does both, doesn't he? Doesn't he do Tyler and NetData?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, they do both.
And the SO.
So how many, just the total number, how many departments are on NetData for the county?
Let's say 6.
Right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, if you're counting the SO, what the sheriff's office does, because they're both Spillman and entering in.
7 or 8?
Yes, sir.
And the ones that are totally, what I'm hearing, that totally want to stay with NetData would be 3? Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, I can't speak to, I mean, I would understand, 1, 2, 4. I mean, constables, JPs, county clerk, county court at law, county and district attorney.
Well, I've
But
heard the
they're still
district
more my way
attorney,
than
the
the
district
other.
attorney and the county attorney agreed that they could do it.
Right.
So I'm just
I'm
trying to
hoping
get
they're still
down,
my way,
I'm just
though.
trying to get down what
Of course.
would satisfy everybody, what that number would be. So if we go from 8 to 3, would that cut the, I'm just trying to get to a number, would that cut the hosting in half?
It would depend. It'd depend on how much data is reside in each of the applications. So we'd have to go back and look and see how many users are there and how much data they have.
We can't agree that it would be less, not
Yes.
more.
Yes.
It would be less.
Okay.
Because Judge Castillo and Judge Powell and Judge Tuttle there would like to stay on that data. I know they told me that. And, of course, Judge Gillum to be, you'll not, to be your.
Stay with NetData.
Just stay with NetData. So that would work out fine for all of those. See, that's what I'm trying to do. The last time that we started this, it was really it got contentious. I got up there and bombarded by people saying, we're elected officials and we've got our stuff. We have a right to choose our own software here, and I really kind of agree with that. I'd like to have that. I also understand it would be better if everybody could agree to one system. It'd be the efficiency and everything else probably would be. But everybody's telling me we could live with that, and I'd rather have happy workers in every department. That's what I'd like to have. I want to see happy people working here and not unhappy people. Can I hear an amen on that? Anyway, y'all have anything else in that data?
I did want to comment back on the auditor. We can customize some of the reports. So if there's something that we can provide a better service to that's something we can absolutely do for the auditor. So.
Okay.
Okay, let's take about a 10-minute break.
Okay, great.
All right?
Great idea.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Then we'll come back in. Okay, NetData, do you have anything else before we let Tyler come up here and respond?
Judge Dallas Osborne is going to say.
Yeah, sure. I remember. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Judge.
Wrap up.
I'll be fairly brief.
Okay.
That sound good? So I'd like to briefly just recap the court on kind of what we offer at the justice court level, just so you guys understand potentially what is in play here and what we offer those guys. It's very different. I'm going to talk about your disposition rates for both your county court and your justice courts that are on NetData. And then I'll talk about the direction of NetData under I3 verticals, because we were acquired last year by those folks out of Nashville in April. And it's been a tremendously positive thing for not only NetData, but for Hood County, since you guys are our customer and we now have additional resources we can throw at you guys. But the GHS system, if you were to move your courts off of NetData, the software piece and GHS, and it's not unlike when I go to a new county and sell them on our system. You're going to have a software vendor, which is probably going to be Odyssey if you decide to switch from NetData. You're going to have to contract with a third-party collection vendor. Well, those systems aren't going to talk to each other, okay? So how does your delinquent vendor get their old cases? Well, it's going to require your court to compile a report once a month or once a quarter. Here's all of our old cases we want you to go collect on. They send that file to the delinquent vendor, who then works it in their system, sends out the letters and the phone calls. It's very inefficient. What you've done essentially is you've added work to your court, because now they have to compile that report, okay, with no guarantee of anything that's going to happen on the back end. They don't know if that collection firm is going to be sending letters, making phone calls. They don't know who they're contacting or when they're contacting them. So it's a very inefficient system. It's what we solved when we started GHS in 2006. We completely integrated your justice courts and the collections management. And I'll give you a for instance. If I was to get a speeding ticket in Hood County, which has not happened yet.
Sheriff, tag him when he leaves here.
My name is Dustin Ballard, for the record. I'm wearing a blue blazer. So there's an appearance date on that citation, okay? Well, 15 days after the appearance date, GHS, on behalf of Hood County, mails out a courtesy notice, a little reminder to that defendant. Keep in mind, Judge, Commissioners, that case isn't delinquent yet. It's something that GHS offers your courts on our toner, our paper, our stamp. Most importantly, we're saving a clerk's time to send out those courtesy notices. Well, if you drop GHS, your courts now have to automate and do that themselves. So you're going to add, again, you're adding work to your courts when you kick out NetData GHS from your justice courts, okay? Now, Dallas Osborne, I still don't pay that ticket. It ages to 61 days after delinquent status. We pick the case up on the 61st day, so clerks never have to send us a file. The system automatically recognizes Dallas Osborne case. It's 61 days old. It's delinquent by statute, which is the law. So we pick it up on the 61st day. There's a system out there called Omni. It's a resource for courts to utilize. It puts a hold on the Texas driver's license for a defendant that gets a case in the justice court. We automate that process. We don't just do it for Hood County. We do it for well over 220 courts every night. they're going to put a hold on my driver's license. And GHS handles that service. Upon disposition, we also notify Omni to release it. So GHS completely automates the Omni process for your justice courts. You kick out NetData GHS from your JP offices, your clerks are going to have to do that process. If it's an out-of-state violator, there's a system called NRVC, the Non-Resident Violator Compact. 44 states and the District of Columbia participate in that. That puts a hold on that defendant's license in their home state. If they get a citation in Hood County, we automate that process at GHS. If you kick NetData GHS out of your justice courts, that's work that your clerks now have to do. We automate all of these processes. We do them every night. Anytime GHS on the delinquent side makes a phone call, sends a letter, updates contact information, it's all logged in the event notes so the clerks know exactly what GHS does and when we do it. You have dramatically impressive disposition rates in Hood County, and I'm going to brag on not only your justice courts, but also your county court. So I ran OCA numbers from 2015 through 2020. Your justice courts in Hood County have filed 23,748 criminal cases. 23,748. They've disposed 22,941. That's a 96.6 disposition rate for your justice courts in 5 years. Actually 5.5, almost 6. That is incredibly impressive. We do this across the state of Texas for justice and municipal courts. If you're over 80, 85%, that's phenomenally good because there's just certain tickets that aren't going to get paid. Your justice courts are at a 96.6 clip. That is absolutely outstanding. This is when we're supposed to applaud. No applaud? No? Okay. I tried, man, I tried. There, Judge Gwynn, thank you. So, and to Katie's office, I think their OCA disposition rate is about 97%. So the offices that are utilizing the NetData systems in Hood County are operating at an extremely high level, even at our standard. So again, switching software, in my opinion, that's $1 million fix for a problem you don't have in Hood County. We have an agreement in place that was signed by both parties last year. Cost the taxpayers of Hood County $24,000 a year. Dustin's team secures, automates, backups your data. It's all stored in his team's system. Cost effective, takes work off of Drew and his IT staff. This court's already decided to do this, so I'm not really sure why we're not doing it already because it's very cost effective. We can certainly judge if you want. I understand there may be some trepidation with the 5-year term. We can look at modifying that, but again, the court agreed to a 5-year deal. We can maybe make it a 3-year if y'all want. But step one, in my opinion, is to get your systems off of the server in Granbury, get them to our hosted environment as both parties agreed. We could certainly down the road look at what we're doing, but your offices that are running on NetData GHS are operating at an extremely high level, and oh, by the way, for the most part, they like us. At least personally. Professionally, I don't know.
Well, that's what happened in Parker County down here. They had all their, on the servers not in the host. Am I right on that, Drew? And that's why they got hacked, and they're still hacked. And it's been 2
And I'll say this to Tyler's credit. Listen, you cannot operate in a hack-free environment in today's. They're good at security. We're good at security. I'm never going to defame. We do our best in the environment we're in. I can't guarantee you will never be hacked.
Right. But I'm not complaining either one against Tyler or NetData. I'm just saying that hosting in the cloud is much, much safer than it is by having it on servers in the county.
Absolutely.
It costs a little more, but it's sure worth it.
Absolutely. 24/7 security. Yeah, it's really where technology is going. So that's what we're currently doing for Hood County, NetData. I think it's been a great relationship. And again, we've got an agreement in place. We would like the county to honor that agreement. Let us migrate you guys over to the cloud. Certainly look at other options down the road, but that's the immediate need. If I'm sitting in your chair, that's the no-brainer decision, especially for the taxpayers. So that's what we're doing currently. Going forward, again, I3 acquired NetData in April of 2019. From 1983 to 2019, NetData only operated in the state of Texas. Extremely successful, but we're reaching that point now. We're in 90-something counties. The growth opportunities get tighter, gets more limited. The state's obviously got their agenda at that level, so you've got legislative concerns. So our previous owner, Deanne's dad, was approached by these folks out of Nashville because they saw what we could offer through credit card payments, through this delinquent collection, through the integrated software. There's nobody in the country doing what NetData and GHS are doing for local traffic courts. So guess what? We're in 5 courts in Oklahoma since the I3 acquisition. We just signed our single biggest court in the entire company, Bowling Green, Ohio. You think it's cold here? Go to Bowling Green. It's freaking freezing up there. Georgia, there's a sister company under the I3 umbrella that has a big software footprint in Georgia. We're taking our GHS collection system to Georgia because nobody's doing what we do with this automation. So I say all that to tell you that the I3 acquisition was a great thing because it has now freed up resources for us to go into new emerging markets. Most importantly for Hood County is it's given us resources to develop the upper level, county and district case management that's on our legacy system. That was a heck of an undertaking and very expensive. I3 has given us the resources to do that. Dustin's team is in development right now on basically giving an icon application for your county and district level courts. We hope to have that in mid-2021. I3 is also acquiring other offices that we don't necessarily service individually, sheriff's offices. They just acquired an SO company. There's a financial application that we're now going to be showing to our legacy financial customers. We have a path forward for every office in Hood County. So the footprint's already here. Your NetData systems are working well. I might be an optimist here. I'd like to add to the NetData family in Hood County. Let us get the I3 thing rolling on our UPO, what's called the Unified Public Offering, where we synergize all of these applications, law enforcement, courts, attorneys, financial. It's in the road. It's on the road, and I3 has absolutely put resources into this, and it's going to happen. And it's going to happen very quickly, so we're really excited about the direction of NetData and what we can offer Hood County. Again, I would just ask the court to honor the agreement we got in place, and let's take this walk together. So, any questions for me?
Good job.
That was brief. Wasn't that brief? Fairly?
Perfect.
Fairly brief. All right, that's my deal.
That's what happens when you're good, see?
Can I get
Good
that right?
presentation.
I want that in writing.
Good presentation.
You got the judge's
All
approval.
right, does NetData have anything else? Yeah.
I think we're good. We've talked with our offices during the break, and I think we're all on the same page and updated with all of our list of to-dos that we had starting in September. I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought, but just to, again, to thank you for allowing me in your county, 6 or 7 times over the last couple of months. And I'm going to say that you haven't seen the last of me or my team. We will continue to visit with all of our offices here multiple times a week to ensure that we're doing everything that we possibly can to keep them happy and make their jobs easier, because that's the sole reason that we're here, to make life easier for our offices here and keep going. And again, so thank you.
Okay.
We're good.
Judge, I'd like to say one thing to NetData.
Yes, sir.
This is coming from Drew. Drew cut me off. I'm speaking out of turn. If Drew has a problem, he calls y'all promise to fix it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want that in the minutes, because Drew's had issues and they hadn't got fixed, got kicked down the road. I want y'all's solemn word to say y'all will get down there and try to fix it.
Absolutely, and if we're not doing that already, that's a problem. So if that's happened in the past, please let me know, or let Deanne know, but we kind of pride ourselves on the back end stuff. I'll say this as well, you've pretty much got half the office here right now. We knew all boots on the ground, Hood County's not happy, looking at switching, we brought the cavalry. So lots of smart folks here. I would recognize.
The A-team.
They're here.
Yeah, yes, we did.
Okay.
And again, Drew, thank you for coordinating this and giving us your time. More than
Thank you.
once.
We got you. Got to thank you. Tyler, please. Yeah, you can stay right here if you'd like, so you can use the internet. There.
How's the temperature in here? Y'all getting hot?
Getting a little warm
Okay,
now.
I called maintenance and I told them turn the cooling up a little bit.
Great job.
On it.
Great job.
It did get warm.
Turn on the heat, you turn on the heat.
There we go.
Is your green, yeah, your green light's on.
It's on now. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I'm Sherry Remington. I'm from Tyler Technologies. You can't hear me? Let me move this a little
No,
closer.
start all over so that we can, yeah.
Sure. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Sherry Remington. I'm from Tyler Technologies. I'm going to sit here instead of standing so that I can kind of see everybody and not have my back to the entire room the whole time. But I work for Tyler. I'm an account executive. I cover most of Texas, not all of the counties in Texas, but most of them. And so I'm going to walk through a little bit of a presentation. I'm not going to take too much time presenting at you with PowerPoints. And then I'm going to switch over and actually show you some of the product, because I want to show you some of the features within Odyssey, some of the efficiencies that you would gain, and so you can see those in real time. Again, please feel free to stop and ask questions along the way if anything comes up. So again, I'm with Tyler. Tyler is a little bit different from other software companies. We only provide software for the public sector. We don't work with private agencies or entities. We only work with public sector. So that includes counties, state governments, local governments, those types of entities. Within our office, in our specific division, which is Courts and Justice, that's our Odyssey products, a few other products that we offer, such as supervision, jury, things like that. We have over 700 specialists specifically in our Courts and Justice division. And so this is kind of the makeup of that team. We have people that work on conversion. So those are the people that take your data from your existing vendor and convert it over into Odyssey when you move over. We have implementation teams. Those are the ones that would be on the ground with you, working to configure the application to meet your needs and work with you directly. And then project management, who again oversee the entire project. They oversee the conversion, the implementation, the go live, all of your training all together. And so that's really the makeup of our team. And another interesting part about our Courts and Justice team is that majority of our people have had experience themselves working in the public sector. We have, not really sure why my screen's zooming in. I didn't touch anything. They've worked in law enforcement, they've worked in courts, we have attorneys that work on our team, and so they've had experience in the public sector and they understand the needs of our clients. Again, just a little bit about our mission. You know, our goal here is really to deliver those holistic solutions. We want to be able to provide solutions across the community that grant access to our citizens to courts and justice applications. And then looking at our Texas base, Tyler is a large organization. We cover the United States. We have international business as well. But within Texas, we have more than 80% of the Texas population that we cover with our products. And with Texas, we are a Texas-based company. Our corporate office is in Plano. That's actually our office that houses our Courts and Justice team, but it's also our actual corporate headquarters as well. So our executive team resides there. When we're looking at your specific area, these are the counties here in your region that currently use Odyssey. And so over here on the left side where you see Texas, all of the counties that are in dark blue are Odyssey clients. And so again, some of those populations are large in some of those areas. And there's actually a couple others on there that haven't been added yet that have newly signed. But if you look over on the right side, the different counties that are in your area, the counties that are in blue are what we call a full integrated solution. So they have Odyssey starting at the jail all the way through the courts, prosecutors, JP offices. And then those that are in green have Odyssey in various locations. So Erath County, for example, they just signed with Odyssey this summer, and so they are in implementation right now. And it will be all of their offices except their jail, because their jail had already made a decision to move to another vendor before we came in. And the same with a couple of other counties on here. But all of those counties use Odyssey in their courts and justice. I also want to point out 2 other titles here, the eFile Texas and Research Texas. You've heard a lot about eFile Texas already today. We are the vendor for both of those, and so we hold the contract with OCA, and we provide, I don't know why it's doing that there. We provide both e-filing and research to the entire state, and so that's something that I'm going to show you here as well within our demonstration.
What is Somerville on right now? What are they doing, Somerville? Y'all got them? Sorry.
It's okay. So one of the things here that I wanted to mention, when the county came to me earlier this year and asked me to look into expanding Odyssey for the county, as well as some other areas of the county, these were the things that we identified as challenges. Of course, there's a financial investment. We know that. It's not cheap to buy software and implement software, so we know that that is something that would be an investment. Change is difficult. It doesn't matter what you're changing to, change is always going to be difficult. There are manual processes, but you know your business processes, and so that's always another challenge that comes in there with change, is that I know how to do my job, you're changing that. Technology continues to change, so we have to be able to stay on top of changing technology. And it's difficult to meet the access needs of the public. We need to be able to meet their needs, whether it's through e-filing or public access to records, being able to do online payments or other online options. And then also, the IT teams are usually pulled in different directions. So they're not responsible just for maintaining your software. The IT team also maintains, county equipment, and they're responsible for if you have on-premise solutions, they have servers they maintain. They manage your email. So all of those things they're responsible for as well. So it's not always easy for them to devote their time to managing the case management platform. So out of that, and out of meetings that I've had with the county officials, we came up with kind of 3 main goals that the county was seeking in this process. So the first one, of course, that we've talked about a lot today already, is a unified case management. So a system that would allow you to access information across the entire county for your people. So whether I have somebody that gets a ticket and they're in the JP court, they may also have a case in the district court or the county court. You would be able to access and see that information across the entire county so that you get a full picture of what's going on with that individual. The secure cloud-hosted environment. So with our SaaS, we call it SaaS, software as a service. So SaaS and cloud, you may hear those interchangeably. So our cloud environments are all CJIS compliant. So when you go through your CJIS audit, you won't have an issue there. They all have disaster recovery, which I already spoke about a little bit. They are all hosted in a secure location, and we duplicate the data so that it's in 2 separate locations geographically. That way, if one went up in flames, your data would just automatically roll over to the next center, and you wouldn't experience any kind of loss in your connectivity time. Apparently, we're just zooming today. The other feature here was efficient access to justice and being able to make sure that your citizens can access information, whether it's getting online to look up a case, whether it's making an online payment, receiving electronic notices if they want to get any notices from the court via email. That's certainly an option as well. So these 3 things kind of defined what we were looking for and trying to do for the county, and you're going to hear me talk about those throughout my demo. So with our products, Tyler is a single vendor solution for counties, not just for courts. I know today we're really focusing on the court aspect of it, but we also have other components that we utilize. Currently, right now, the county uses us in the district clerk's office and district court. The judges use it. We are using our jury software here in the county. The county clerk's office uses our Eagle recorder. We also have our Encode financials that the auditor's office is using. And so we do stretch across multiple areas of the county. As you can see on here, we have the e-filing on here. Case management and document management are fully integrated. We have courtroom tools that are available. We're already using some of those in the district clerk's office. And then we also have public access as well as attorney access. So your prosecutors can utilize e-discovery tools to share discovery with defense attorneys. And so I did want to hit a little bit again on change, because we all know that change is hard, and we know that that's a reason that a lot of people do come up with opposition to new things coming out to them. And I always use this analogy just because to me it's one that applies to most everyone. You know, all of us probably started with some sort of cell phone at some point in time that wasn't an iPhone. Either you had a flip phone or one of those boxy phones. And then the iPhone came out, and you get this iPhone, and you're like, it doesn't have a keyboard, what do I do with it? You had to learn how to use it all over again. You could still make phone calls, but you could do other things as well. It's the same process with making a software switch. It's painful, you have to learn. You learn new buttons, you learn that, hey, I can now do this. Instead of picking up the phone and calling someone, I could send a text message. It's the same thing within Odyssey. Instead of going out to e-filing and filing stuff into the court, I can now do it right inside the software, which we're gonna see that. And so I just want you to know that we're aware change is hard, and it's something that everybody has to come to terms with. The other thing that I did want to mention is our Justice of the Peace clients. And so with Odyssey, when we first rolled out in Texas to our JP courts, they hated us. And that's just, I mean, there's no nice way to say that. They didn't like us. And the reason why is because we were catering more towards a county and a district court. And when we came into the JP office, that's what we knew. And they're like, that's not how we operate. We operate differently. We don't have felony cases. We don't do these things. We handle evictions. We have small claims. We do a lot of traffic. All of these processes that JP offices did were different for us. And so what we did at that time, we kind of took a step back and we formed a focus group or a steering committee of JPs across the state. And so we met with them and we said, tell us what you do that's different. Tell us why we don't fit right now. And so they did, and they were really open with us about the things that they needed to run their offices efficiently. And so out of that steering committee, which we still utilize, we created 56 individual projects that we funded to develop within our product to make it easier for JP offices and to make things the way that they needed them to function. And so there's workflows that we created for them. We have automations as far as how you handle tickets, if it's a driver safety course, if it's a, somebody came in and showed their proof of correction for insurance or driver's license. We have automation behind those now, as well as our DPS citation integration. And so the DPS citations can come into an electronic queue. They can automatically create cases for you and upload that information. We do have an online community, so if you're using some of our Tyler products, you're probably already in there. But we do have specific classes online for our JP offices. Also within our JP offices, Dallas did talk a little bit about collections and how that works on the NetData side. With ours, it is a little bit different because we are not a collections firm. That's not what we do. We have processes built into our system to handle collections, and so it runs an automated process that would run through the same type of time frames that you just heard Dallas speak about when it hits that 61-day mark, or whatever mark you want to define. It has a process that runs in the background, and then it can send the file to your collections firm, whether you're using, I know right now the county has contracts with Linebarger and Purdue. We work with both of those as well for tax collections and for other collections. And so our JP processes also work with them. We have a file that exports to them so that they can pursue the collections, and then the file can then be imported back into the system to update your case records. We don't ever go in and access your case records because that's not the role of the vendor to actually update a case record, so that is something that would still be done on the court side. Not sure on my PowerPoint here.
That thing don't like you.
I don't know what's going on, so we're just going to stay here for a minute. So in our SaaS solution, I did want to talk about that a little bit more. It's apparently my computer. So with SaaS, moving into the cloud, we do have enhanced security. So we do keep your data safe and CJIS compliant. You don't have to have any physical hardware here on site, so there will be no servers. You don't have to have a VPN connection. None of that is required to access our solution, so there's nothing that would be set up here. It does increase your availability and uptime so that you don't experience any time periods where your data is down. It is consistently up. And then also, again, talking about the hardware, we can eliminate that hardware for you. The other thing, I'm just going to try to go back into our view here. It's a little bit prettier there. So the other thing I wanted to talk about with Odyssey is that our system is ever evolving. It is constantly changing. We update it every year. And so with our Odyssey system, we have what we call EverGuide, or we used to call it Evergreen philosophy, so that it always stays up to date. And so if you look over here on the far left, you can see it's kind of a brown screen that you see with Odyssey, and then the one next to it is a little bit blue, and then the one you see on the front is the main one that we have now. And so if you've worked in the district clerk's office, you probably saw this evolution through the office as well. I know just you guys were on the second one there, the blue screen, up until this past year. So every year, Tyler invests our own money into our product. Last year it was about $88 million that we put back into Odyssey. And so what we do during that time frame is we update infrastructure. So we're always going in and changing out the infrastructure to make sure that it's current technology. We want to stay current so that we don't get behind. And then we're also enhancing features, adding new features. We may be refining things within the system. And so some of the biggest changes that we saw within the past couple of years, when we went from that blue screen over to the white one in the middle, we added in queues and workflows on the left side of the screen. We also added in multitasking, and so there's a command bar so I can do multiple things at once. And so there were some other infrastructure changes. And so this is something that happens at no additional cost. All of our updates come with your annual fees, so you're not paying, you're not coming to us and saying, hey, we want to upgrade to the next version. It's something that is already included. And we work with your team then on those updates for your system before they're rolled out. With our system, we also, every client has multiple environments. So you have your production environment, which is what you use every day, your reels, that's your, we call it, that's the golden stage environment. And then we have a training environment or a test environment. Some clients will have training and test separate. It's really just a preference. But those environments are in the background, and that's for your team so that when there's an update, we can push the update to your test or your training environment first. We can test it, run through it, see if there are any issues. And at the same time, we then can use that same environment when you have new staff come on and you want to train them. Instead of putting them in the real environment where they may be messing with actual court records, they can always get trained on your test or training environment first. So that's always something that we do, and we work on those different environments during your implementation process as well.
Yeah, let's stop right there. You're talking about updates. You're saying there is no update fees?
There are no update fees.
Okay.
And also, I did leave out the update cycle. So with our product, we do release a new version of Odyssey every year. Generally, it comes out in around September or October timeframe. And so we have early adopters. We have a few counties that will raise their hand and say, yeah, we're willing to test your product early. And so we'll let them roll out the product earlier in the year, and they give us their feedback on things that aren't working right or that they wish were different. And so every year we roll out that update. So our 2020 release is just now came out in the past couple months. Clients are never forced to move to the new release. They may have reasoning for not wanting to take a new release right away. They may want to wait and then take it later. We also, during those releases, it's when we can also patch any other fixes that may be needed. Throughout the year, though, we do have other updates that happen throughout the year. It's just not a huge update of the whole system, but there may be additional features here and there. One of the things that happens frequently throughout the year is if we have another client that has requested custom development and they pay for it, that update will then be available to you as well. And so with Texas, with us having a large base in Texas, we have a lot of clients that like to pay for development. And when they do that, you get the benefit of it without having to pay for it, which is always really nice. We have some larger counties that like to spend money on custom development. And then that rolls out to all of the clients. And so you do benefit from that. Sometimes we will have clients go in together, and so maybe you have a couple of counties surrounding you that use Odyssey, and all of you have a shared interest in getting a certain feature, and maybe it's not on our roadmap at that point in time, but it's something that those counties feel passionate about. You can always go in together and pay for the development for that. So those are just some other features within our product. Sorry, I turned my clicker off so that it wouldn't get in the way now. This is just another visual on some of those upgrades, and so you can see at the bottom the different years that have spanned this development, as well as even the evolution of our logos within our system. But it's just showing the enhancement to our features over the years. So we started out with our case manager and financial manager, and then it increased to adding in our jails and our prosecutors, and so you can kind of just see how that's built on in our system. And then the other thing that was part of kind of one of the county's issues is talking about public access. So with our public access, this is an example of our portal page, but you are always welcome to go onto the district clerk site. She has her portal live and available now. And it looks very similar to this, but the county can customize how this looks, and you can add your own messaging on here. But you can do smart searches in here, so you can search kind of similar how you do in Google, where you're searching for different terms. Electronic document access, which can also make documents available for purchase. So if the county does make some money off of that, you can do that here. You can search for hearings. We also have secure attorney access. And in that attorney access, that's where they can share their e-discovery, they can access their own cases and have some advanced access available to them. And then, of course, e-payments, so that they can make online payments. Those online payments go directly through our system and automatically update to the case record. So you don't have to go through the Texas payments to do any of that. It all happens directly within our system. And then the other thing that I did want to talk about is support. That was something that was talked about a lot in some of the previous sessions. So every one of our clients has support account managers that are assigned to them. And so I know that with Hood County, our offices here have a great relationship with our support team. And they have regular meetings with them, whether it's monthly or bi-weekly, just depending on what your needs are. You can have those meetings scheduled so that we're taking a really proactive approach to this. We're not waiting until something comes up in court or at another time to know that there's an issue going on. We want to make sure that we're aware of something as soon as it happens so that we can address it. And so that client success account manager, we call them a CSAM, another abbreviation. They really work with you not only on any issues you may have, but they work on planning for the future. And so what we want to do is always make sure that you are planning for the next step. Whether that next step is doing something more electronic in your court. Maybe we're going to go completely electronic in a courtroom, or we're going to implement e-filing in the JP offices. They work through that with them, as well as your upgrades. Because as I said, every year we have those upgrades come out. Doesn't mean you're required to take that upgrade, but it is available. And so they work with you on when are you ready to upgrade, why you should upgrade, you know, what are some of the pitfalls, what are some of the pros to it. And so they really work very closely with your team, your IT team, and your different offices on those processes. And so just walking through, I'm almost done here before we can jump into the product. We do have different options for our Odyssey support. You have phone support. We have an online client portal. We have Tyler Community where you can get answers. We track every support ticket that comes in. That way we can always go back and see what happened with a previous issue. I always have access to it as well so that I can look into and see what's going on with things. And so that's just another thing that I wanted to mention is available. There's also emergency after-hours support. If you did have an emergency hit after hours, that is available as well. We do define kind of what constitutes an emergency. It's not, I can't log in. That's not necessarily an emergency. You know, we kind of set some parameters around that so that we don't overuse it. And then I really want to talk to you again about what's that return on your investment? Because again, we know that software does cost money. It is an investment for the county. We do create more efficient offices, and we're going to show some of those efficiencies today. Better access to data, not just for your citizens, but for your entire county. So if I am a JP and I need to see that somebody has other things going on in the county, I can see that. Or if I am in the county court or the district court and I want to see that this person has 5 other cases in the county, I have access to that. Moving to a more electronic unified county. And then this also positions the county to stay on top of that current technology so that you don't fall behind, because again, that's updated every year. And then increasing that citizen access to justice. So really, when we're looking at this, because we've talked about 2 different things today. Oops, my computer's not working for me. You really have 2 choices here. You can continue operating just like you are with your multiple vendors and multiple systems. That's certainly still one of the options here. Or you can move into a more single vendor integrated solution. Again, that encompasses multiple areas of the county as your options. So those options are what are before you today. And then again, just looking at that unified solution, this would really turn the county into more of a total Tyler partnership. We want to be able to create those efficiencies. We want to be CJIS compliant and have your data safe so that you do have extra protections against any of those ransomware attacks. The centralized access, and then again, your OCA reporting, all within Odyssey. And so we can talk about reporting when we get into the product as well. Any questions?
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing I did NetData. You know, if we have a problem, you're going to be there to fix it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
Do you presently store that in the cloud now for us?
Yes. Your district clerk data, right now your district clerk's data is in the cloud.
That's the only one?
That is the only one. Your other products are not, and that was one thing that in the last Commissioners Court meeting that I was charged with, was to get the estimates to be able to move those to the cloud as well. And so I do have that for you so that we can move everything to a hosted cloud solution.
What are they? Do you have them with you?
I do. And I believe I've already provided you with a copy of these, but in here, it has a summary that includes all of the products and the migrations to the cloud, as well as individual breakdown of individual products. And within the proposal, if you're looking at it, the first section is the investment summary that includes everything. And on the second page of that investment summary, at the bottom, it actually gives you a list of what your current contracts are and what you're currently paying per contract for those. And some of those...
Annual?
I'm sorry?
Annual?
Correct. And so those are your annual fees there. And then behind that, it breaks it down for each of the products so that you can see what each product would then cost on its own.
So $1,395,000 is what it would cost to convert everything in the county to the Tyler Odyssey system.
That's correct. That would be everything. That cost includes all of your offices. That includes your execu time for the payroll, for clocking in and out that we mentioned in our last meeting. It also includes moving the Eagle Recorder to a SaaS solution, as well as your Encode financials. And then this also includes for Clint's offices, the permitting software that was requested in the last meeting as well, and the software for your constables.
Drew, have you seen this proposal?
No, I have not.
Would
You
you,
go, Drew.
do you have an extra one for him to look at? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
What would it cost to take the other offices that are on Tyler Odyssey right now and put them into the cloud, move them into the cloud?
So if we break those down for each of those offices, so let me bring over individual ones. So your financial management office, there's actually no additional cost to move that one to the cloud. The cost stays the same. There's no services associated to that one. So your annual cost right now on that one is $54,226. That would stay the same. And then your Eagle Recorder office, that one comes to a total of $81,926 for the county clerk. To move that over, there's some services with that that's included to move that into the cloud.
That's per year, 81,000 per year?
So the 81,000 is for the implementation and the services, and so the annual for that one is the 71,126.
Oh, okay.
You see the bottom section, that's
I
just a
see,
one-time.
yeah. What is the cost for I know that the district clerk's office, the auditor's office, the county treasurer, what other offices are on Tyler right now? Yeah, purchasing. So that's 1, 2,
So
3, 4.
Everything you have currently with Tyler right now, including all of those offices, it's $194.70 annually.
194,000.
Yes.
Okay, which
94070?
Correct.
Okay,
Those are your current contracts that you have with with Tyler for the whole county.
got it.
It's 1.3 or almost $1.4 million. Is that a total turnkey? Is there anything else involved in that? Any annual fees or anything else?
So that's the cost for that includes your annual fees and all of the project costs for the entire county, for everything.
But then there's still annual cost.
Correct. So then you still have your annual fees that come along with that. And so if you look on the very first page where it says total annual SAS fees, that gives you a total for the entire county. So that includes the permitting, the soft code for your constables. It includes Eagle Recorder, the executime, and your in-code financials. So it's not an additional $400,000 there. It's including the costs that you're already paying.
It's an additional annual 410,000?
No, that would be your new annual. So 194 is what you pay now.
That's what we pay now.
194. Now it would be 410 with everything for the whole county.
Everything, after annual fee.
Correct.
410,991.
After we pay you the 1.4, then we're going to start paying this $410,000 a year?
Correct.
If we switch totally.
If you switch totally, yes. And that includes everything being in the cloud. So you would have no on-premise servers or equipment to maintain there.
But to keep it what it is right now with the offices that we did say, the 1, 2, 3, 4, was it 5 offices? Is that what we have now? What is the annual fee?
194,070, isn't it?
Correct.
9407.
194,000
194,000.
with what we have presently.
Correct.
Yep, that's what it's costing us presently, annually. Does that include the host? That's,
Yes.
all of those 4 or 5 offices are hosted in the cloud.
Correct.
Okay, and that's the total fee per year right now.
Yes.
Or annually is going to a little more than double.
Yes, but when you look at this too, you have to also consider what you're currently paying for those services now. So you're currently also, in addition to your 194 that you pay us, you're paying NetData, you're paying, whatever other vendors you may have. I don't know what your permitting uses and things like that. So those costs would also go away. You wouldn't have those anymore in addition to that 410. And I'm sure the auditor can probably speak to some of those costs as well.
But right now on NetData, what is it per year for us, $25,000? Is that?
Not for all the cloud, all the whole cloud, somewhere over 100 and some odd thousand. 120, something like that.
So Judge, it's, if you drop NetData entirely and just went with Tyler, the cost is like $12,000 more a year, somewhere along those lines. And where your added bonus is your timekeeping system. It's new, so that's a bonus. And I would really like to move toward the timekeeping system.
Okay, but I'm trying to figure out, what is it costing us per year right now for Odyssey to run the county clerk's office, all the JPs, and the constables that's on it? I guess that's the only thing.
It's $174,000 a year.
$174,000 per year?
Does that sound right? Where'd she go? That's what I'm remembering from some notes from the last meeting, is between 171 and 174.
Completely go over 12K more a year.
Yes.
Between the two, 12,000 a year more to go, all Tyler?
Yeah.
Okay, then all NetData, no, or existing NetData?
Existing. So if you want enhancements to get more in line with what you have, then the cost for NetData would go up.
NetData is in the cloud too on what y'all doing. Don't y'all host it in the cloud for security?
Yes, on our hosting environment?
Would you remove your mask, please, just for a second?
Yes.
Is it hosted in the cloud? It's not on servers here in the county. Is that right, Drew?
Currently, your systems are on the servers here in the county.
Correct. Currently,
And that's why we're looking at the contract for 5 years to go to the cloud. Right.
5 years is almost 110,000, right?
Well, yeah, about 110,000 a year.
It's 24,000 a year, but the total for 5 years is,
Total is,
for 5 years.
That's true.
5 years,
Yeah,
yes.
25, 49, or some different. Yeah.
total of the whole 5-year contract is 110 or?
Yeah.
Got it.
Drew, I'd like to hear from you. I mean, this all comes back on you. We're going to all blame you. I just thought I'd go ahead and tell you, if it's all good, we all did it. If something happens, Drew, what did you do or failed to do?
Well, of course, I'm always, you can blame me for anything, because I'll take it all.
I know you do a good job, and you got a good.
So, I mean, originally, when we started rediscussing this 3 months ago, that this is now the 4th meeting we've had over this. There are some offices that want to stay. There are some offices that want to move to Tyler. In my opinion and my recommendation, Becky said that we have the money to move the whole county over to Tyler if we wanted to. I think we should, if the departments want to stay on NetData, let them stay on NetData. If they want to move to Tyler because it would make their life easier, let them move to Tyler. That's ultimately what I think.
Well, we hear the people that are wanting to stay on NetData, like the county clerk and the JPs and the constables, and what they've said, with the exception of one. I see you there, Rusty. But let's say they do want to switch on to Tyler, they could still switch onto that, and you could function just.
That is correct.
You could handle everything.
Absolutely. That is what we've been doing. We've been doing a hybrid solution for years now. So essentially, we're already doing that, Judge and Commissioners.
And what that would prevent us from having to spend is the $1,395,000 for the total conversion.
That is correct.
That's a pretty lot of money.
I completely agree.
I think.
And that is why.
Of course, sometime down the road, you never know what's going to happen with computers. Everything goes exponentially with computers. I do understand that. So.
Well, that million sounds like a lot, but according to our auditor, it's just 12,000 more a year.
You're paying us $172,000 in maintenance a year. So I'm a little confused on where the $12,000 difference comes in when you're quoted $410,000. I mean, I know that's different. I mean,
Right.
I know that's
Because you lose that.
It's additional software that you guys requested. The permitting, that was additional, that was requested, and the executime. Those were new additions.
And you're paying for executive time different already. You're already paying that bill on top of NetData or Tyler. That would be integrated in with Tyler, so you would eliminate that part.
Right.
But that has always been my opinion. I mean, regardless what other people think probably about me, I try to keep the peace, generally speaking, and everyone running happily, I would hope. Otherwise I haven't really known about it, or no one's told me to my face about it. But I think that's always been my goal and my opinion / recommendation. I know there are offices that want to move to Tyler. Let them move to Tyler if the money is there. If they want to stay on NetData, let them stay on NetData.
Is that a big hardship for you?
No, because we've been operating on that kind of a solution for years now.
But you're fixing to have some in the JP courts moving over. Is that going to?
I mean, ultimately, we've always,
Drew, are you changing your mind? Because when you first came to us, you wanted to go all to Tyler.
No, I mean, my standpoint is still the same. If it's-
And whether it's Tyler or NetData, you told us that we needed to go to one single source.
Yes.
Data. That's what you
So
told us.
there is efficiency gained, like Tyler has said.
And we asked for you to give us an ROI, and you said you couldn't do that.
That is correct. We'd have to go out and ask. Again, that would be a data analysis to see what kind of money spent because of the inefficiencies versus going to one full efficient solution.
Judge, Gwen,
Well, I'd like
come speak, Judge, come to the microphone, please.
I'd like to know from NetData what additional cost there would be if we go to the e-filing, because that's going to change the maintenance fee per year. Is that correct?
Does it change the maintenance fee? You know what? Dallas has left the room for a second. Let me find it. I don't
Okay.
have those numbers just off the top of my head, so I don't want to tell you anything that's not true, but
Okay.
Hey, Dallas.
Yeah.
Same time, friend. Can you tell Judge Gwen what the e-file cost is? Because I wasn't sure.
It was like $7,500.
$7,500, I think, something like that. And then $7,500.
Can you remove it just briefly,
I'm sorry.
please? So,
Excuse me, Judge. I believe the number was $7,500 up front for the licensing, and then $2,500 a year.
Per
something
office?
like that. It is per office, but there would be a discount if all of them went, right? So we adopted the Costco model.
Volume.
Yeah, you buy 3 or 4 of them, all of a sudden, yeah, they get less expensive.
Where's the e-filing fee going to be for Tyler?
There isn't one.
Okay.
So am I correct in saying any enhancements that NetData gives us, there'll be an additional cost?
Let me speak on that.
Okay.
So, and I didn't mention this, so in 2014, the ICON application your justice courts are using was rolled out to every JP office in the state of Texas that was using that product, the old legacy product, at no fee. So there was no additional cost for the new version of the software, okay? Every JP court that was utilizing our old legacy system got ICON as part of their maintenance and support. If it's an additional application, things like the JP e-filing, we have an application called iTicket that downloads from DPS. Based on fairness to the customer, we typically charge extra for those add-on applications. Like everything else, it's negotiable. But we do charge for these extra applications that are kind of add-ons because some courts want it, some courts don't. So we don't necessarily license it all as a bundle since we know some of our customers won't utilize certain aspects of it. So we try to piecemeal it and be as fair as possible. But rest assured, if there's a system in place, if you're buying a system in place that has those costs are embedded in the system already, so it's in there. We add extra because it's new. But going forward, I don't install JP offices without iTicket. So if we just include it now. So our legacy customers like Hood County, they pay extra just because they didn't have it. But it's an add-on. It's an absolute must now for our new installs. JP e-filing will be the same going forward. Once it's mandated, we're not going to install a JP office without it. So it'll be included in our system once it's mandated. So,
Remington, your price is a bundle? I mean, there's no extras, hidden extras?
There's no hidden extras. E-filing's included. Everything that I've mentioned so far is included in that.
So 2 offices that go with Tyler, that's $14,000 savings right there. And that kills the $12K over cost of Tyler. Yeah.
Is that correct, Becky? You're giving, okay.
That's 14. Just 2 offices, that's 14 grand.
What are you saying, James?
Well, he's saying it's going to cost $7,000 per office to do e-filing. If 2 offices go with Tyler, that kills the $12K more a year with Tyler bundle. It's 2 offices. I mean, Kathy Gwynn kind of heading that away.
that 7,000, Commissioner, you're mentioning, that's the license fee. So that's a one-time, it's not a per year thing.
Constable 4.
I think it was $2,500 a year, didn't you say?
Yeah, $2,500 a year ongoing. And
So-
again, that's negotiable. If that's a big gotcha to Hood County and you guys want, we can always talk about those things. Again, I would really, really appreciate the opportunity to migrate to the cloud, and then we can talk about these additional things. down the road, things like integrating various offices and things like that. But I think the most important thing is following through on the agreement we have. Let's get the offices migrated over to the cloud, get them off the server. We've got a path forward. We've got 3 years to basically prove ourselves as the I3 unified public offering. The county's monetary risk is minimal. I mean, we're talking $24,000 a year, I think, for the hosting thing. So, again, that seems like the no-brainer thing, and the court has already agreed to it. So,
You asked me what offices. I got 3 right here wants to go. Constable 4, JP 3, Constable 2 wants to go to Tyler. That's $21,000.
Have you shown your software program to the JPs here,
I
each
did
one
show-
individually?
I met with them last month. We had, I think, 3 of the JPs there and showed the software to them.
I don't see Judge Tuggle in here. See what he thought of it.
He wanted to stay with NetData.
Even after seeing, but you did show him your system.
I don't think, Denise was there for that meeting.
Denise, yeah. Do you have something to say? You want to come?
I was just acknowledging I was at that presentation.
And I would like to show a few things within Odyssey here to kind of show some of the efficiencies that have come up today in the conversations. Sure. If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So what you see on the screen right now is our Odyssey application. So I'm using a demo environment right now, and so it has a little bit of everything in it, but these are all things that would be part of your Odyssey. When I say it has everything in it, that means that I have kind of everything turned on because it is configurable. You can turn features on and off within the application. One of the things that I want to highlight, if you're in our application, at the very top of the screen, we have a menu bar, and I can search throughout the application. So if I need to search for a report, or if I'm looking for a specific feature, I can just start searching, and it's going to then pull up those specific items. So it's very user-friendly in being able to find things quickly within our application. We are a party-based system, so information resides around a party record, and so that information is going to carry over. If I get a ticket, if I get arrested, if I have a family case, my information will stay connected. But what I want to talk about here in our application is a little bit of the integration with our e-filing, because that's been a topic of conversation today. As I mentioned, Tyler is the vendor for e-filing, and so with that, we have a native integration into Odyssey. And so it's not anything additional that has to be done. It comes with your product. It's being used in the district clerk's office right now. And so what I'm actually going to do here, this is our Odyssey file and serve, and so your clerks should be very familiar with this screen. This is where they come into e-filing to accept a filing or reject a filing and work on those individual envelopes that get filed. And so one of the things that is coming out next year with our update to our system is that this review queue will now be inside Odyssey. So a clerk won't have to leave Odyssey at all. They will be able to just open Odyssey and work from there the entire day without going out to e-filing. The other thing with our e-filing, what was mentioned earlier, is that the prosecutor offices, the county attorney, district attorney, they're having to use e-filing to file into the courts whenever they're ready to file a case, or when they need to file a motion. That would not happen anymore. It would happen within Odyssey. We have an internal e-filing in Odyssey so that they can directly file and a clerk can then review that information. So in my review queue, just like your clerks do now, I'm going to scroll to the bottom, I have envelopes that are waiting to be accepted or rejected by a clerk. So these have been filed by an outside attorney, or they could be filed by a citizen through our guide and file. And so I'm just going to go ahead and go into one of my filings here. It's going to pull up all the information, the same thing you saw on her PowerPoint earlier, but we're actually going to kind of walk through what happens in this process. I can review my document, all of my filing information. So again, this is nothing new. The county's already using this. I'm going to go ahead and accept it and just say, yes, we're going to accept that document. It's going to then go ahead and save that filing. What happens in this process is that that filing is now being sent directly into Odyssey Case Manager. It's going to create the case for us. It's going to add the fees. It's going to do any automations that were supposed to happen automatically. So if it needs to schedule a hearing automatically, if it needs to docket an event on the case, or send a notice out to the defendant, that can happen automatically without a clerk going in and doing any additional data entry. All the financials also come over as well because they automatically post to your case. And so I'm just going to go ahead and, oops, I don't want to interject it. I want to stop filing right now. And I can see in my review history, you can see up here at the top, here's the envelope we just looked at. Here are some others that I recently filed. And so this will update the same way. So we're going to see a case number here in just a moment as soon as it finishes processing. Sometimes depending on our connection, it may take it a moment. There we go. Now we have a case number. It went into Odyssey. It grabbed the case number. And now I can go into Odyssey and I can look up that case. So we'll pull up our case record here. And it then brings us immediately into that case. My computer is not liking the projector, I don't think. It keeps changing my screen. Well, that's fun. Sometimes the projections will mess up my screen, and it clicked all the buttons. So my case created, while you can see part of it right now, unfortunately I'll have to exit out real quick and change it. Over on the financial balance that you can see on the screen, it did zero out because they paid the case initiation fees with their e-filing. So the clerk doesn't have to go in and do anything else. Let me just log back into Odyssey. Apologies for that. Sometimes whenever we're connected to other projectors, it does mess up my resolution on my screen. So we'll just log back in. And it'll pull it right back up for us. I'm also, right now what I'm connected to is servers on my machine. I'm hosting virtual machines, and so that can have a little bit of an impact as well. But we'll just go back over to our case. There we go. So now here is our case. Again, there's our zero balance on our financials. You can see here's the document that was filed, and it also went ahead and auto-scheduled a hearing for us. So the clerk didn't do anything else. You only saw me accept my case, and that was it. If I click into my petition, we can see that document that they filed. It's going to open it up within our document viewer. At the top, it did a file stamp. So these are all the things that our e-filing does natively. It's part of NetData was showing how they're doing that within their system using their own integrations. That would then be set up in your JP offices. If we go into our financials, we can then see that transaction. And so it does keep a log of all of the transactions. You can see our case filing fees are all broken out. But if I go into my transaction, we can then see that e-filing payment there, and it has an audit trail associated with it. So all of that information automatically posts to our case. So that was the e-filing side of it. And again, once our update for next year is released, you will see that inside Odyssey. Another thing I wanted to mention is that anything that you see me demo today is actually live in a client environment. We don't demo anything that's not live. So you're not going to see me do any kind of conceptual mock-ups or anything else here in the system. So what I wanted to show, and that was talked about earlier as one of the issues with the county and district attorney's office, is the e-filing that can be done within the system so that they need to file with the courts. So in my system, I have my prosecutor offices here as well. And so I'm just going to go ahead and open up a prosecutor case that I've already created here for us to look at today. So this is a case record. So in my case record, this is on the prosecutor side. I can see all of my charge details here. I can see any information that may have been sent. So you can see down here we have some recent events. They had a victim packet that was sent out. They posted a bond. We have an arrest report. All of this information that they have accumulated inside their case is visible. Our attorney cases have security associated with them because even though it is a unified system, our prosecutor cases would not be visible to the courts. They can't access the prosecutor records. That's not allowed. We can also make assignments on our cases. So you can see down here that I have a paralegal and a prosecutor assigned to a case, so you can manage their caseloads, and you can generate reports so that you quickly know how many cases each prosecutor or paralegal are working at any given time to help balance some of those caseloads. So if I go into my case here, I'm going to flip over. I can see my menu of all of my options. If I can click my buttons. My events, these are your docket entries. All of the entries on this case will land here in the Events tab. This looks very similar to how it is on the court side as well, which we'll see. You can see every item that has been added. If they have a document associated to it, you can see those documents here as well. Within our cases, you can also track service. So if we have to serve a subpoena or any other kind of service, that is tracked within the case. And then we can also do tracking with what the constables are using to serve. That will update within Odyssey as well. Within this case, I'm going to go back over into my charging instruments. This tab is actually where we generate the indictment. And so when I met with the county attorney and the district attorney's offices, this is something we talked about as a feature that would be beneficial for their office and really help make it more efficient when they are processing cases. When I'm looking at my charges, so this case has 2 charges. I can choose if I want to file 1 charge or both charges. I can click into any of those charges and see the charge detail. And so if there were enhancements associated with it, that would be visible here. And then they can also decide where they're going to file this case. So we're going to choose today's date, and I can choose which office. And so within Odyssey, it's associated into your different offices. So if I were filing this case into the district court, I would have that option, or the county court. Generally, the way it's set up, your county attorney files into the county and district to the district. But certainly there may be some exception to that at some times. So we'll just go ahead and say where we're going to file this. Under our charging instruments, it just wants us to save our case. When we're ready to create that indictment so that we can file it with the court, we click on our plus sign and it brings up our dialog to create our indictment. And so we'll go ahead and add a charge because they have multiple charges. We're just going to add one today and work on that charge. It then lets us add any of the charging language that is needed. Oh, we already printed this one. We'll go ahead and just print it again. Each charge has charging language already in the system, and so those come straight from any of the penal codes, any of the state guidelines, to then associate to the specific charges. And actually, let me go over my charge and I can show you. So I just went ahead and created that document. But if I go into the charge itself, we have paragraphs here, and those can then be pulled into the different indictment documents. If they needed to add multiple charging paragraphs, those are already there. With any of our Texas clients, we call it our Texas baseline. When we implement a client, we already have the state charges, offenses, and charging paragraphs in here, so that those can then just be automatically pulled into your system. And so we already have a lot of your offense codes in the system because you do use them in the clerk's office. Now that we've created our indictment that's then been added to our case, the clerks can then file this with the court. So they have an option over here to initiate a task. And so we're going to do an initial filing. They can also do subsequent filings. And so that will let them file a motion, any other filings they need to submit to the court. They can do that all right here from Odyssey without having to leave and go into e-filing. And so when we come into the charge dialog here, it's going to show us any charge that's ready to be submitted. And so you'll notice we had 2 charges on our case. We had assault and a DWI. Only the DWI is ready because that's the only one we created an indictment off of. So if I don't have everything ready, it's not going to let me submit it to the clerk's office. And so I can create or attach my document. And I'm just going to go ahead and send this. And it will then send over into a queue and let the clerk's office then process it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and save my case and exit it. Over here is where we have our task queues. And so these are the queues that your clerks and judges and everyone works out of. This is kind of your to-do list. You may have different things that are coming to you for signature, whether it's a warrant that needs to be signed, whether you're getting blood warrants that you need to sign, whether you're at your desk or somewhere else, you can sign them using your queues. You can send requests via these workflows and queues. I have quite a few workflows and queues on mine just because, again, I have everything turned on, so I kind of wear all the hats in my system. But I have this criminal e-filing queue. And if I come in here, I can see the details of my case. We can see our individual's name. It's a criminal e-filing. My document is here. I can click on it, and I can view that indictment that we just created. And then I can just choose to accept. Once I accept it, it's going to just create the case for me. And when it creates the case, it's going to associate that document to the case, and it's going to associate the criminal case to the prosecutor so the prosecutor can view that case record straight from their file. So they're not having to go out access another system. They're not having to look elsewhere for this case. It's going to show up directly in their own case. And so if I come in here, we'll just go ahead and search back for that case that we were just working on. Now, if you look at my screen, this first charge assault says right here, it doesn't have a case number because we didn't file it. But the one below it, the DWI, it has a case number now. And so if I click on this, it's going to pull up the register of actions for that case straight from the prosecutor's side. So they can see the court register of actions. We can scroll down, and I can see here is my indictment that I filed. There's my document that I can look at if I need to. And you can also see that there's a hearing scheduled. So it automatically scheduled a hearing when that case was created. The clerk didn't have to do any data entry on that. They just accepted the case and it created. So that does eliminate the prosecutor's offices from having to do that extra work of creating their documents, saving them, going to e-filing, creating their information and sending it to the clerk's offices. It eliminates that process. And so then if we go onto the clerk's side of the screen, so I'm just going to look her up because I don't remember her case number. We'll search for Jessica, and we can see a list of all of Jessica's cases here. So you can see not only does she have this misdemeanor case that we just created, but she has some traffic cases down here in the JP office. But if we come in here, we can now see that case. And so all of her information is here. It does give us a cross-reference to the prosecutor's case, but you'll notice there's no link. I can't click on it. So the court can't access that prosecutor case, but they can see the number if needed. If they needed to call the prosecutor's office and reference it, it's available to them here. So there are efficiencies created on both sides of it, from the prosecutor end as well as from the court side. Now, I will say that if you guys did choose to only have some offices move over, so if the prosecutors moved over to Tyler, but the county clerk didn't, they're not going to have that efficiency there. They're still going to be using e-filing and going through that process to file their case with the county clerk. So even though they would create efficiencies in their office as far as creating their charging instruments and other tools within the system, that one piece where it's going to then connect that information and create that ease of filing will be gone. They'll still have to go to e-filing, so that process wouldn't change. So again, some of those efficiencies when you have a unified system across the county. Any questions?
I got a question for you.
Yes.
Y'all's proposal here, this is going to take some teaching. How long do you think, how much time are y'all going to spend with the different offices in the county, and how many people are going to come down here? Because one person is not going to be able to run from office to office.
Correct. So within the project, we do allocate a specific number of resources. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what the number is for your specific county, but we do have people in every office during training and during implementation. And so when we train, we do this in a couple of different ways. And so in the very beginning of your project, when we're kicking it off, we train, we call them SMEs, your subject matter experts. So you have a key person in each office that kind of knows all the stuff. We train that person because they're going to be really helping us out during implementation. And so we train them on the system in the very beginning, and they work with us throughout the project to do the configuration so that we can make sure that we have your business processes working the way that you want them to work in the system. And then when we get close to your go live, when we're actually going to flip the switch and start using the system for real, we have our trainers come on site, and people are on site throughout the life of the project too. They come on site and they train everybody. And so we do it kind of classroom style, which again is limited to kind of how many, how much space you have and how many we're going to use there. But we train them on the system and your business processes and how it's going to work. And so generally you probably will have about 2 trainers on site during that phase of it. To train everyone, and that training occurs over a couple of weeks because we do work with your schedules, because obviously we can't take everybody out of the office for a week at a time, so we do stagger that so that you can still do your regular daily job. And then at go live, when we're ready to flip the switch, we have people on site, our implementation team, and they're in every office. And so you will have a physical person there with the team so that if questions come up, if an issue, if I forgot how to do something, I have someone there to answer those questions and help on the spot. You're not having to call in to someone and wait for somebody to help you out or call to another office. We have people here on site. And so and a lot of times in an ideal implementation, when things go very smoothly, that implementation person really isn't doing a lot. They're kind of watching and they're if needed, and they're kind of the safety net at that point. But during your go live, we usually have people on staff for about 3 to 4 weeks after you go live. The first week we have the most people here because that's when everybody's kind of, antsy and we're flipping that switch and they want to make sure that they can do everything they need to. And then the second week, there may be, 1 or 2 less people, kind of dialing that back so that you're ready to go. It's kind of like having training wheels. You got to have somebody there in the beginning until you're ready to go on your own. And then once you get to that point where everything is running smoothly, you've reached 3 to 4 weeks post go live, then we transition the county to our support team, which you already have a support team, and so we would then, add this part of the project to that support team. And that support team would then kind of manage it from that point on. And again, it's the same kind of thing that sometimes you're not quite ready to let go of those implementation people and move over to support. And so we kind of monitor that process to see when you're really ready to let loose and go at that point in time.
So if you don't think they're ready, you're going to have somebody there to continue to help them?
That's correct. Yeah. I will say, Johnson County, I spent 5 weeks at a JP office in Johnson County. I was only supposed to be there for 3. And after the 3rd week, they were like, oh, we can't do it on our own. We're not ready. I didn't do anything. I sat there, but they just felt like they needed something just in case something went wrong. And so I spent an extra 2 weeks just sitting there with them in their office, answering questions if needed.
I know Tona and the treasurer and all them, and Tona, correct me if I'm wrong, they had a whole slew of people in there transferring y'all, getting y'all transferred over.
Yes, we did. We did also, and one of the things that I
Yes.
liked the most was that we have to run so many different reports. They sat with us and we went step by step, and I wrote it down, and that was the key. Now, obviously, I hope I don't have too long, but that was the key. On a variety of reports we needed to do, we did them one at a time with exact instructions.
And I will say too that we always stay with you as well through the first reporting cycle that you have to do, any state reports or any monthly reports that you do, just to make sure that, like she said, you know how to do them for that first time, that we don't have any issues that come up. And if they do come up, then we're there to resolve them right then without you having to go through, calling it a supporter, reaching out to your CSAM. We're there for that part of it. So we do stay on for that. Another thing that I wanted to point out in our system, when we're talking about your own business processes and help and things like that, let me just flip over to our court case here. If I am working in the system at any point in time and I get stuck, I can use my F1 key and it immediately opens up a help screen that's specific to where I am. So on that case, I was looking at financials. And so when I pressed help, it immediately took me to the financial screen. And in this specific section, a lot of counties will actually put their own process in here. And so you can add content to this. And so if I'm in financials and if my business process is that I have to do steps, A, B, and C, I can have those here in the system so that they know when they get stuck somewhere, they can see your business process. They would still have the Tyler content here available. This just tells you how to use the system, but they would also have Hood County's specific policy in there so that they know how the county wants them to operate. And a lot of our counties will use that because they may have their own unique process that may not be crystal clear when somebody's looking at the screen and they don't know what to do. They can add that here, hit F1, and immediately go into that help section.
Let me try to get this straight in my head. The maintenance fees, if you kept 2 vendors, are going to be pretty much a wash, Becky?
Pretty much.
So we're talking about we're just really debating to spend $1.4 million, right?
And yes, that's correct.
Wow. So, one of the things that we were talking about earlier, I was talking about the e-filing through NetData. So, to get this straight, for me, if I were to create an indictment for a case and then follow it through the courts, so I have to use Microsoft Word, manually type in my entire indictment, save it. Then we don't currently file them through e-file. We currently are paper on those, but they need to be filed through e-file. So if I were to file it through e-file, then I have to go into the e-file system and manually create everything in the e-file system, upload the document, and push it through to the clerk. The way I'm understanding with you, I go into the system, the document is already there, it's going to pull all of the information. All I have to do is click the check boxes that say, these are the parts of this that I need to go into my indictment.
Correct.
It's going to create it, and then I push it straight through to the clerk without having to go into another system at all.
Correct.
So for me, it would be considerable time saving to do it on their system versus the way I'm currently having to do it on NetData. But that's also because my clerk is already on Tyler. So everything would talk to each other because we would both be on the same system.
Yes.
Where currently we're on 2 different systems. So that's, between the 2 demonstrations, that's where I see where my office would best benefit being on the same system and being with a more efficient system with it already creating all the documents for me.
And you're in the DA office.
Correct.
And you're sending this stuff over to the clerk.
To clerk, to Tona, correct.
But you're on NetData and she's on Tyler.
Correct.
That's why you have to put all this stuff manually to get it over there.
Correct. And
I got it.
when I was asking earlier about the e-filing, it's that way with every document that we create in our office. Every motion that we create, every document that we create in our office, we have to manually create those documents. Then we have to go into the e-file system and manually enter everything into the e-file system and push that document through. Where with the demonstration that Tyler just did, everything is created within the system and it automatically pushes it through without us going to a separate system. That's why I was asking NetData a while ago if there was a way that I could be integrated with that to push through without having to go to a separate system. That's why I was asking.
I'm sorry to jump in.
No, you go right ahead.
It just goes back to, there are departments that could benefit to move to Tyler. If the money is already there, let them move over to Tyler. The departments, I guess, if there is a way that they can, or, I was going to say.
Wait a minute. Go ahead and finish.
So again, if there are departments that will see improvement to move to Tyler, let them move to Tyler. If there are departments that want to stay on NetData, stay on NetData. It's fine. I mean, maybe, or they can meet with NetData. Maybe NetData has a solution for them. I don't know. But from what she was saying, it sounds like they don't have a solution. So it would be more beneficial and efficient to move over to Tyler.
For the DA's office.
That is correct. So that's kind of back to the whole stay at the status quo.
Do you have money in your budget to cover that in case that the DA wanted to switch?
No. That would be, so that would fall back under Becky moved over the money in Fund 55.
And what would it cost to do that one department then?
I don't have that quote.
We can determine that if we know which departments want to go, how many users we have. I mean, there's still going to be implementation costs associated to that.
Well, I remember that Brian Sinclair, the district attorney, saying he could work with either, but with Brandy saying what she just said up here, I'd like to find out just what it would cost to do it, if you could get that to us.
And
Okay?
if we know, which offices.
Yeah, go for it.
Definitely want to move, then we can price that out, be a little bit easier that way. If we did it individually, like if we did one JP, one DA, and we price those individually, it'll come out a little bit more expensive.
For a comparison, you need to find out which offices want to go and which over here, and then that would give you an opportunity to bid yours, and that would give them an opportunity to bid theirs.
Correct. We would just need to know the, exact number of which offices, so that we can then, put that together. I mean, it'll be less obviously than what the tag is now.
See, that's what I said for both of you ladies up here, to have some type of integrated software, but y'all don't want to do that. Y'all both have your proprietary information up here, so it's going to be that way. Katie, what were you going to say?
I'm not sure that maybe she does, how long has she been on NetData? Or,
I've been at the DA's office for 7 years and been on it since then.
oh, okay. Well, I know when I want to do a citation or a warrant or something, I don't have to go into Word and type it all out. It's created for me automatically in NetData. And
So I was just asking her about that. probably what you're using. But that is available.
Yes, it is available, the document service. So it's automatically created in NetData also. I'm just, maybe she's not using the same, drilling into NetData far enough, or needs some training, I don't know, but I know that NetData for my office does create documents that I
Well, the
need.
misdemeanor court's from the same type.
Yeah, it's the
Corrected
same
document.
software, so
Could
yeah.
you get somebody to go over there? Could you
Yeah.
send yourself or Dean to go talk to
I can send
Brandy
Dean
and
over
see?
there, and definitely, he's always happy to train, so, yeah. Anybody that has any questions or needs anything, Dean would be the person to go to. He used to work at NetData, so he knows all about it.
I know he used to work for NetData, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they'd want to say? Well, I guess we're not to take any action, we were just going to discuss everything, so.
Did we learn anything?
Yeah, I'm totally confused. Is anybody else here totally confused? Here? I'm getting ready to go work for Dominion. Not. That's a joke, everybody, okay? Bad joke. Well, with that, let's go ahead, I guess, if nobody has anything else.
I guess these two, that they need to have some kind of,
Direction.
I guess Drew get with them and see.
Yeah. Well, I think what the court's going to have to do is come back and address Drew's issue. We've got to make a decision whether we're going to go to the cloud with NetData or do something different. And we can't do that today.
We can't do it
We can't do it today, but that's what the court's going to have to decide. Get it back on the agenda. If we need more information, I don't know what it's going to be, but we just need to make a decision on how we're going to go forward. We're going to go forward with a 3 or a 5-year contract with NetData for cloud storage, or start the process of splitting it up partial or all to NetData. I think that's what the court's going to have to do.
The only thing I've done about the Parker County situation when they got hacked, is that I think it's Drew, and talking to Drew and to Homeland Security, that we need to all go into the cloud. That's the most secure that we can be.
Correct.
Is that right? So that's what, we're just going to have to factor in that cost. I need to know that cost. And then let's factor in what offices want to switch from NetData to go to Tyler or whatever, and see what the cost is. And let's set it up for the next Commissioners Court, which is what, the 8th, huh? Yeah, week from today?
I think Dallas made a comment about maybe softening that e-filing fee maybe in the future or something. Is that what you said a while ago? Yeah.
It's coming.
Yes, it is.
It's coming. I mean, they just cut off in Dallas, and all the district court cases about filing, they just went bam, as of this date, you'll either e-file or won't file at all.
Correct.
So it's coming.
Yeah, we'll have a Commissioners Court a week from today, next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So,
Why don't we could get it on the docket. Let's see can y'all work that fast?
We're gonna get Drew, Judge, and
Okay.
agreement for the hosting thing, and he'll have that later today, so.
Perfect.
Yep.
What about you? You can work with Drew too?
Yes.
All right. With nothing else, I hereby adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much.